Hey fans of M&A, thanks for tuning in to another episode of M&A Sports Radio, and if you haven't already, please hit subscribe on your favorite podcast app.
While you're in there, leave us a rating, add a comment. We appreciate the feedback. Thank you for tuning in, M&A Sports Radio.
From New York City to around the world, this is M&A Sports Radio with Moose and AJ.
M&A Sports Radio, AJ Nicoletti, Mike Moose, O'Brien. Moose, how's your Masters week, dude?
It was awesome. I watched a lot of golf, clearly. A lot to talk about here. Jordan Spieth. So much to say, so much to get into. Danny Willett, your 2016 Masters champion. But first, let's start with Thursday. AJ, break it down.
Well, one of the big four, Ricky Fowler, just struggled early and often in his first round on Thursday. Ricky was never really in this thing after Thursday, and he just did not perform to his standard. Jason Day, I thought he had a really good shot at posting up a big number and putting one up there because he was behind Jordan.
He was down 3 going into Sunday.
Just in the holes, I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying in general,
on Thursday.
Yeah.
So Jordan goes out, shoots 66, but Day bogeys. He doubles and bogeys, and 15 and 16 really ruined his tournament. He was 5 under, and then he just did not get it back from there. Rory shoots 70 on Thursday. Of course, Ernie Els, the struggles on 1. He said he thought about quitting.
He should have. I honestly, think about it. You came in there Thursday, and you finished the first hole, you go, it's over.
Yeah, but, it's a whole thing
I get it. It's a professionalism thing.
He's probably not going to get it back or make the cut after that, something like that, but that being said, I still admire him for going out there on Friday and continuing on Thursday.
There's also still money to be made
Absolutely.
that he would leave on the table, potentially.
Absolutely.
No, but I just think from like a competitive standpoint, you're just like,
he's
why did
shot.
Why did I even freaking come here? Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Weather was a story the second half of Thursday and definitely Friday.
30-mile-per-hour winds. That's going to set the tone for any golf tournament, let alone the Masters.
Tom Watson said goodbye to Augusta professionally as a golfer. It was a really cool moment coming off the 18th green.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
It's felt like I've heard this storyline every year.
Well, he's been leaving the majors one by one per year. That's what he's been doing.
I know, but it's just...
So it seems like you've been like, well, you said goodbye to this one last year.
I know, but it's...
That's what he's doing.
I
He stretched it out. I will give you that, but that's what he's doing.
Yeah. Not a bad retirement.
No, man, he was a great golfer.
No, he was.
He's still hitting it pretty well.
Remember, he was in the Open Championship all the way to the last
Yes.
hole the one year. They got the yips late. It happened.
Yes.
Was he 50-something at the time?
56
Yeah,
or something?
55, something like that.
DJ and Rory both shoot 71 on a really tough day. Those were really good scores. And who missed the cut? Jason Duffner, Ricky Fowler, Ernie Els, Graham McDowell, Zach Johnson, Masters champion, Charles Schwartzel, Masters champion, and Phil Mickelson, Masters champion.
Can I say something? Ever since he won the U.S. Open, Jason Duffner, I don't think he's made a cut.
I know, in a big tournament. It's been a tough go.
He got in better shape and all that stuff too. I know he had some personal stuff where him and his wife got divorced.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's something between his ears went. It's clear. It's clear as day. He's not the same
He was never
golfer.
really the best putter, but his ball striking
Yeah, but he
was
won a
excellent.
major
Exactly.
championship.
Yeah.
And now he can't make a cut.
Yeah, that's very disappointing. Saturday storyline, Smiley Kaufman shoots a round of the day, 69. Jason Day shot 71. Spieth, bogey, and double at 17 and 18. His lead shrunk to 1 stroke. He was at -3. Kaufman and the rest of the field started at -2. A lot of players were even, including, Roy was +2. Danny Willett was even. Jason Day was even. And then Sunday, a lot of people say, the tournament doesn't start until Sunday. So to see Jordan Spieth,
Or the back nine if you're Jordan Spieth.
very true. If he birdies 4 in a row on the first 9, they don't call it back in front.
Yeah, I know, because the way the tournament unfolds.
And you would have never thought, was he swinging not so great, and was he Was he bailing himself out with a putter? Absolutely. We talked about it on that Sunday
part
preview.
Of it. That's part of it, though. You know
but
what I mean?
some of those swings on 10, 11, and 12 were absolutely terrible.
I told you this. The second ball he hit into the water on 12 was worse than the first one. When that chunk of grass came up, when they slowed it down, it looked like he took a shovel and took it and threw the golf ball. It was
terrible.
When they slowed it down, you're going, that's really what I think. Anyone in that situation, there's nerves, but just take a second. You just hit one in the water. Just take a step back. It's golf. It's not football where you have a play clock unless you're really being brutal with it. They're going to say, hey, come on, let's go. You know what I mean?
He got put on the clock on Friday.
No, I know. I saw he flipped on that on Friday. But you know what I mean? If they say, hey, you're on the clock, okay, whatever. That's an extenuating. That can't happen. I don't know what else I can say about that. He's still the best player in the world. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But I said it before the show, and you looked at me and you kind of gave me the crazy look, and then I talked about it. This is probably the biggest choke in the history of golf. It's the 12th hole. It's over. Like, you just play your game from here on out. And he just struggled on 10 and 11. So you're thinking, okay, he's going to get it together here. And then he unravels. He came back strong, don't get me wrong. He came back. He birdies the next 2 holes to get within 1. He has a chance. But, man, the only way he could have recovered from something like that was to win the tournament, and he didn't. And I don't think it'll haunt him forever, but this will be a moment in his career where he'll say, where he's 35 or 40, say, hey, I wish I had that one back.
But the thing about Jordan is, if he hadn't won, I would have been very worried.
Oh, yeah, no, that's what I just said that to you.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing. So he's in the position where, is his ball striking great? No, it's not, if we're being honest. Is he a phenomenal driver of the ball in the sense that he hits it very long? No, he doesn't really hit it very long. He hits it where it needs to be often. That's what he tries to do. He's a very good course manager, and he's an excellent putter. But when he's not striking the ball well is when he starts to have his problems. And even though he did have the quad on 12, for him to birdie 13 after getting unlucky with the 7-iron second shot into the par 5, it rolled off the green. Who knows if he has the eagle putt, if he makes it or not, but he would have had the opportunity to make it if it stays on the green. Gets birdie there, pars 14, misses the putt at 16, would have been really big.
Just to put the pressure back on. Now we're saying,
exactly.
Hey, now we got ourselves
one. He need one birdie with 2 holes instead of 2.
Yeah.
I will say that I was very proud of the way he fought back after the quad. Ran out of holes.
Yeah.
17 and 18 are very hard to birdie, especially on Sunday with those conditions and just the pressure of the whole situation. But that being said, Danny Willett won this tournament. I know Jordan Spieth lost and he blew a lead and he had 3 bad holes. Danny Willett shot 67 on Sunday at the Masters.
But no, before this show, you came on here and said, oh, yeah, I said something about Danny Willett. You read his score, and you tried to tell me.
Said he was even, and he's a very good player.
No, you didn't say that.
In the Masters show, I said he was a very good player.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
You said he's even. We played it back. We'll play it back after you're lying.
I said it twice. He's a good player. I said he was even, though.
Okay.
I did say that.
We listened to the show before.
I know. That's why I'm very surprised you're getting this wrong, but okay.
Okay.
Shot 67, wins the Masters. DJ chokes. He had a shot down the stretch. He is such a choker. Lee Westwood was there on Sunday, but he can't hit a putt ever.
He's a guy. He's at a point in his career. It's like, how many more chances is he gonna have? You know what I mean?
Not many, but that's the same thing. Not the same thing with Dustin Johnson, but is Dustin Johnson ever going to win one of these things? I think he absolutely has the talent. I think he needs to get his brother off the bag. That's number one.
I know. We were talking about this a little before the show. I think, it gets to a point, especially if you're not getting it done, where a family member being part of it just becomes more and more a bigger issue until you get over that hurdle. And then if it doesn't, you know what I mean? It's not good to mix family and, you know what I mean? I don't know. More times than not, especially in sports or whether business, it tends not to work out the way you plan for it. That's just my thought.
And, you can't, he's your brother. How are you going to,
He's your bra.
You can't, you can scream at him, but at the end of the day, that's blood. I know it's a job and it's professional, but you need someone on the bag that I think is better than that. No offense to Dustin Johnson's brother, but, you got to get it together if you want to win one of these things. If he doesn't ground his club at Whistling Straits, he wins one. If he doesn't 3-putt last year at Chambers Bay, he wins one. So he probably should at least have 2 already. But
I think he gets over the hurdle eventually. But he's
I know,
one of those guys.
But he's there every time, and every time he chokes.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who should, if he would have played the game the way it's supposed to be played in the right moments, he could have potentially had probably 5 or 10 major championships, and he's a guy you're thinking maybe he gets 2. You know what I mean? 2 or 3.
Holes in 1 at 16. We can't go on to the
3
takeaways we got before we talk about this. Shane Lowry, Davis Love III, and Louis Oosthuizen, whose ball ricocheted and went in.
Unbelievable.
It was awesome.
3 hole in 1. What are the chances?
You know what's crazy? Vern just sits there in the tower all day and just watches that. He's got some of the best gigs in America.
That's what hard work does, man. No one handed him that. He got there hard work. I'd like to know the probability of that on a Masters Sunday. I'm just curious.
I don't even remember when the last one was in competition, but it hadn't been a while. It'd been a while.
3 on the same hole on the same day.
Like, that's incredible.
That's like almost winning the lottery type.
That's incredible. They were great shots, too. Takeaways I have from this tournament. I think Jordan Spieth, we talked about it. He is still the best player in the world. It's arguable, but he's the best player in the world from our sense.
With the way things worked out with Roy this weekend.
I think he will absolutely bounce back. Jason Day, I think he lost the tournament on Thursday with that meltdown on the back 9. But he did shoot.
There.
He was there, but he didn't make a charge.
If I told you he's down 3 on Sunday, you'd say he was there. But no one really made a charge other than Danny Willett on Sunday. Who really made a charge? Spieth on Thursday shot the 66, then Willett shot the 67 on Sunday. But other than that, who really made a charge?
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I think he'll bounce back, especially with the courses that are coming up in this major championship season. Rory has to make a putt at Augusta on a Sunday.
Yeah, you talked about how he's been pressing. We talked about it in the little Saturday special we did. Something's mentally from the 2011 Masters now. Something definitely clicks. It's almost like deja vu. I think he gets over the hump eventually here, but I think he needs to beat Spieth. I think that's a big part of this. He needs to beat Jordan Spieth in the big moment, and this was his chance this weekend. He faltered for sure.
Saturday, he did not have a good round.
No, and they were in the same group, and you thought we could be set up for a great matchup, and it turned out to be a dud, to be quite honest.
He's so good in the other major championships. I'm not worried, but you could start to be concerned about him playing at Augusta because he hasn't been great.
I totally agree.
He's been there, but he hasn't been great. He hasn't made a big putt. We talked about it before. DJ, if he's ever going to win one of these things, I think he needs a new caddy. 5th, we talked about it. You alluded to it. The Masters, I don't like when people say this, but it doesn't begin until the second 9 on Sunday. You could say it for this one, absolutely.
Oh, the complexity of the tournament completely changed.
With 2 shots, really.
Oh, unbelievable. And you think about it. It's crazy because as good as Willett was and as good as Stories he was, you're going to remember the Spieth quadruple bogey on 12 more than you remember the Danny Willett finish. That's what stinks for Willett.
Anytime he comes to that tee, he's going to remember that.
Yeah. But you know what? In fairness to Danny Willett, whatever. If that's what people remember, you know what? I still got a green jacket.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I thought Willett really earned it. I shot 67. We talked about it. But I think Jordan, people were like, I would say 75-25, but they were defending him afterwards. Like, you know, it's really tough for that spot. You won it last year. You have to put the jacket on the guy. He basically, not that he took it from you, but you feel like you gave it away, and you're literally putting it on him, like to say congratulations. He was so numb. He almost fell over in Butler Cabin. Like, he had to do it again outside for the media and the fans that stayed. So I was pretty proud of Jordan. And Bill McAtee just fired some hardball questions at him right when he came off the course. He answered them. He stood there. You know, he's
but you
no
know
excuses. It was awesome. I was so proud of him for that.
That's what you get paid to do, though. At the same time, I completely agree with.
But people don't do that.
Yeah,
in that spot.
no. Especially in today's, you look at a guy like Cam Newton, it's the complete opposite. But I think that's a difference in the sport and the difference in the emotion, the physical aggression that goes into it too. I think you're a lot more emotional after a football game. Not to say that golf's not an emotional sport, but it's different when you're physically. You know what I mean? Football is seen as a modern day, almost gladiator-esque. So I think there's a little different mentality there as well.
So the next up for the golf season for major championships, the U.S. Open at Oakmont. So that will be very, very exciting. Coming up, we'll talk to our NHL insider, Rob Coliani. We'll go in-depth on each series in the East and West and get his picks NBA, we'll talk about Kobe, Golden State going for the record, the playoff preview and picks of all 8 series in the NBA, or possible 8 series. We don't know with Houston and the Jazz yet, but we'll see. NFL, some news and notes, what pissed you off, all coming up. M&A Sports Radio.
Back after this. M&A Sports Radio, we're back. Mike O'Brien alongside AJ Nicoletti. NHL playoffs right around the corner. We all get excited this time of year. Hockey's a little different than most sports. When it gets to the end of a game, when it's all hands on deck, a team's trying to score, another team's trying to stop it. There's a certain emotion that goes into it, and I'm fired up, AJ.
Welcome in our NHL analyst, our NHL insider, Rob Coliani, for playoff time. Rob, welcome. How are you?
What's up, gentlemen? Most exciting time of the year. I always say we're finally here. And it's interesting. I'm actually at a baseball game right now, so I feel a little out of place. Yeah, but I'm ready to rock tomorrow night.
More grass and dirt than ice, but it'll be okay.
Absolutely. Let's get going.
Pens Rangers, Rob. And really, the storyline here is the Rangers are kind of limping in. The Penguins are pretty hot. But another storyline is concern for both goalies. Marc-Andre Fleury has not been great in the playoffs, and Henrik Lundqvist seemed to leave practice and come back the other day. He's sick. What are your thoughts on both goalies for this series?
I mean, Fleury's a little bit more serious because you're coming back from a concussion. As far as I see, reports are saying that he may be okay for Game 1, which will be huge for the Penguins. And I think for Lundqvist, it's a little bit of, before playoff nerves because he knows he's not going into this series with his top defenseman, and that's Ryan McDonough. I think Lundqvist will be fine. It seemed like it was some sort of stomach bug, something a little bit more on the side of illness rather than injury. So I expect them both to probably be in to start this series. And this is a real interesting one. I mean, you have the Rangers who have had a very sneaky, inconsistent 101-point season. And you also have the Pittsburgh Penguins. After firing Mike Johnson, they bring in Mike Sullivan, and they've pretty much been fantastic down the stretch. This is one that's going to be tough to call, and you want to sit here as a Ranger fan and say, okay, I think that the Rangers have a good shot to finally, after a few years of not really getting to the end point and winning the Stanley Cup, that this will be their shot. I think that, now around this time, it's going to be tough against the Penguins. And also, too, you have a red-hot Penguins team that was 14-2 going down the stretch. So this will be a tough one to call. I think a lot of it's going to have to do with the young defensemen on the Rangers and whether they can overcome the injuries to the back end of the New York Rangers squad.
Hey, Rob, I just want to talk to you real quick about Pittsburgh. You talked about question marks for both teams. You mentioned the defense for New York. You look at Pittsburgh, who's already thin defensively. Chris Letang's had a great year, but they go into this series, you look, Oli Mata's out, and then you look, Evgeny Malkin hurt his shoulder again the other day. It looks like he's going to be fine, but you look at that and you think, as hot as they are, I mean, the Rangers have had their number in the postseason the last few years, and 2 years back with the remarkable comeback. So you look at this and you say, like you mentioned, there is question marks for both teams. But when I look at this, the thing that sticks out to me, I was researching a little bit, and I saw that the Penguins have given up 67 first-period goals, and that's the 8th most in the NHL and the most in the postseason. And I think, especially if you're the Rangers, if you can ever jump up 2-0 on the Penguins, that's going to be crucial, because I think the closer this game, if it's like a 2-1, 3-2 game, that benefits the Rangers. If it gets up to like 3 and 4 goals, that does not benefit the New York Rangers. And I think this is where the series is won and lost.
No, I absolutely agree with that, Moose. I think that if the Rangers in this series can get off the hot starts, I think that they're going to have a lot of success, because the Penguins are the type of team that could surge, especially on that second line with that newfound chemistry between Phil Kessel, Nick Bonino, and Carl Hagelin, the ex-Ranger. Yep. I think that the X factor is really going to be what team comes out of the gate and what team starts off hot. And honestly, with Henrik Lundqvist in the net, if you're going to be scoring goals in the first period, I really like your chances, regardless of who you're playing, because, Henrik always shows up to these games. That's why this one's going to be tough to predict. They're both banged up. Evgeny Malkin doesn't look like he'll return this series. So if Sidney Crosby can put this team on his back with help from that second line and Phil Kessel, I think that the Penguins can win this one. If the Rangers come with their goaltending and their defense plays well, because I think you will get the scoring out of the New York Rangers, I think that they could potentially win it. I'll let you guys know my pick, a little bit further in the segment, but I think this one is definitely going to be a bit tighter than in years past, where last year it was sort of a fluke with the 5-game series win, because that was as close of a series as I've seen in a very long time between the two.
That's called a professional tease, folks. We move on to Caps Flyers. The narrative here, of course, the Caps with their playoff issues, and for the Flyers, they've kind of come on a little bit of late. Their owner, Ed Schneider, has passed away, a great man in hockey. They're kind of playing with heavy hearts. Interesting series here.
Absolutely, and this is honestly, I'll give you this one as my upset pick. I do have the Philadelphia Flyers over the Washington Capitals, because, AJ, when's the last time the Washington Capitals this year played a meaningful game?
That's a great
and
question.
Also, too, the fact that you have Ed Snyder, who is the longtime owner of the Philadelphia Flyers, passing away right before a playoff series with the Capitals. I mean, when it comes to the hockey gods, I don't believe that they're on the Washington Capitals side, because the rally cry for the Philadelphia Flyers, an overly physical team who was going to beat up Washington regardless in this series if they won or not, now have extra motivation to play. I think that the Flyers have a very young defense, and those are going to be question marks with Schultz and Streit. But you got Gothisbeer, and you got young talent that could score from the defensive end on Philadelphia. Will they be able to control the potent offense of the Washington Capitals with Ovechkin and Backstrom? I think they will have a tough time, but this is one of those where if you see a game one that's close in the third period, you never know. We've seen it time and time again where a fluke goal can turn a series. And I think for the Philadelphia Flyers, a chippy team with guys like Simmons and Voracek, I think that this one could go their way. And wouldn't that be something, another early exit for the Washington Capitals in the first round of the playoffs?
Rob, let's move it over to another matchup in the East here. Rematch of last year's postseason. We got Tampa Bay Lightning and the Detroit Red Wings. Do you see this turning into a defensive series?
Well, absolutely, Moose. I mean, first off, this series from the Tampa Bay side is floored with injuries. Not having Anton Stralman, not having Steven Stamkos because of the blood clot. So you're going to have secondary players step up. They are a potent offensive team, the Tampa Bay Lightning, but players like Jonathan Drouin and Matt Carl on the back end, they're going to have to step up on the power play.
Yeah.
A mediocre power play the Tampa Bay had all year with Stralman and with Stamkos and the rest of those guys who are out with injury, it's going to be really tough for Tampa Bay. But you're also looking at a Detroit Red Wings team that did not play well down the stretch, that actually limped in against Rangers. If Boston had not lost that day, who knows what would have happened to Detroit as far as their playoff fortune. But yet again, 25 years in the making, they've been into the playoffs. So it's just an unbelievable stretch, despite how they got in this year. But I think this one is honestly going to come down to Peter Mrazek and Ben Bishop. That goalie matchup is going to be key. And honestly, this is another one that can go either way. There's fuel that is firing this rivalry from last year, where it was a close 7-game series between Tampa and Detroit. But I absolutely agree. I think it'll be very defensive, especially because the scoring output of the Tampa Bay Lightning and Detroit hasn't really been there towards the end of the season. Both teams are floored with it. Well, Tampa Bay was floored with injuries, but Detroit sort of limped down the stretch offensively. So this one's definitely going to be a close one as far as on the scoreboard is concerned.
Last series in the East, Rob, Florida and the Islanders. Panthers are, their depth has been a question. They have been strong all year, but their depth is definitely a question. And the Islanders, their question mark is their goaltender.
Right, and it looks like Yaroslav Halak will not be back in the first round, which that's going to be a big blow to the New York Islanders. Talk about a team that's looking to get out of the first round for the first time since 1993. And although they may have thrown that game against the Philadelphia Flyers to get the Florida Panthers in the first round, I think they've bitten off a little bit more than they could chew. They're a banged-up team that doesn't have a goalie, and they've had just as inconsistent of a year as the New York Rangers despite their record. And I do think that the Florida Panthers, with veteran leadership like Roberto Luongo and net, and the ageless wonder Jaromir Jagr. I think that young guys like Barakov and Jonathan Huberdeau will step up, and when the time is right for the Florida Panthers, they will end up defeating the New York Islanders in the first round. This will be a close series like all of these, but I do think that not having your starting goalie going into a playoff series is the toughest blow, because I feel like defense and I feel like goaltending oftentimes win you Stanley Cups.
Hey, Rob, let's take it out west now. Let's start with the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild. I think the headline here is Tyler Seguin with the Achilles injury. You look at the Stars, if you insert him into that lineup, you look at them, you go, I don't want to play that team. And now they have to they have to remake it on the fly. What do you make of their chances in the postseason, I guess, in this round?
Well, right, and you have the Dallas Stars, which they were the highest scoring team in the National Hockey League this year. I mean, between Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, they're the highest scoring team with Patrick Sharp and just an unbelievable squad that they have over there. I think that against the Minnesota Wild, who got in with 87 points in the West, I think if Kari Lehtinen holds up at their goaltender, I think that this will be an easy round for them. But Sagan's injury is questionable. Not sure if he's going to be in for Game 1, but I do think that they will overcome. They do have a lot of firepower. Their goalie's going to have to play well, though, for them.
Blues Blackhawks, Rob. Kane on fire. The Hawks look primed for another run. And it's really the case of a prime Blackhawks team against the same old Blues who are without their goalie and David Backes.
Absolutely. It's Moose and AJ. It's like the same exact thing each year. The Cards just don't play well for the St. Louis Blues because they're running into these teams each and every year that are Stanley Cup champions in the end. And I think for the Blues, it's going to be that same old tale. The one thing that may hold back the Chicago Blackhawks is Duncan Keith going to come back and play well? There's word out there that he's had a knee injury. He hasn't been turning right when it comes to defensive positioning. And also, too, he's coming off the suspension, so he won't be in for Game 1. Crawford, the same deal. He's dealing with an upper body injury. How is he going to come back off of injury? So those are the question marks for me with the Chicago Blackhawks. But don't forget about Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane. You know, it's the same theme year in and year out, and I really do think it'll be the same old Blues in St. Louis.
Rob, let's move over to another team in the West here. It seems like the same song and dance every year. The San Jose Sharks take on the Los Angeles Kings. And know what's funny? Before this series lines up, and I can actually say this, and I think you'll agree with me, Kings in 5, maybe 6. Kings will just beat them because they'll make the plays they need to make. Not that San Jose is not talented. They've been talented for 10 years. They just can't win a big game. I look at this and I say Kings in 5 or 6, probably.
Absolutely. I mean, I call it the Capitals West.
Yeah,
the San Jose Sharks.
It's a great point.
Because they can't seem to win a big game. I mean, you remember this team has been atop the Western Conference for years. For as many years as I've cognitively been interested in stats and watching hockey, the San Jose Sharks have been in, and they've been close, but they've never overcome. And I think just another team that looks across them and says, really, we got to play the Kings. We got to play the Blackhawks in the first round. And it's just unfortunate for them. They've had a great year. Their personnel hasn't changed much because they've refused to clean house. Why clean house when you're a successful team? But if you're not winning Stanley Cups, I don't think that equals success. Playoff success is one thing, but championships are another. And I think that for the Kings against the Sharks, once again, this is going to be a quick series. You got Jonathan Quick, a proven goaltender with Stanley Cups, against Martin Jones. You got a stacked offense with Milan Lucic and LeCavalier coming in there at the trade deadline. And you just look at the Kings and you say, wow, they were a well-rested team that's been fantastic all year long. It's a tough draw for the Sharks. I think this will actually be quicker than people expect with the Kings over the Sharks out there in the West.
Last matchup, Rob, Ducks and Preds. I think the key here, if the Predators want to pull off this upset, they have to be disciplined. They have to stay out of the box. And the Ducks, they're so strong down the middle, it's going to be really tough for Nashville to get to the next round.
Oh, for sure. And Anaheim, Anaheim's got a chip on their shoulder from what happened last year against the Blackhawks. And those things aren't forgotten. They're not forgotten easily. And I do think that Anaheim is going to make this a quick series as well. You got Getzlaf and you got Perry. They're leaders in the playoffs. And I think that the play of Cam Fowler on the back end is really going to help them. He's been fantastic down the stretch for the Anaheim Ducks. And don't forget, Bruce Boudreau was on the hot seat in the beginning of the season. This was an Anaheim team that didn't even look like they looked like they may have been first in the draft lottery. That's about it this year.
Oh yeah, they started real slow.
And he turned around that team, and now they are primed for another playoff run. And fortunately for them, they do get Nashville, which was a team down the stretch that had some difficulty. Pekka Rinne wasn't great. And I just think this is another matchup where in the West you sort of take a deep breath when you don't see the Kings and you don't see the Blackhawks. For Anaheim, I think that this is a great draw for them. They may see the Kings in the second round, but I think that this is a fantastic draw for Anaheim, and I do think that the way that they're playing, and especially the way that they have played with the chip on their shoulder from last year, that they'll make this a really fun series. But you're absolutely right. Nashville, if they were to win this series, it would be up to Pekka Rinne and solid defense. They'll have to be tight back there because this is a very potent Anaheim team, especially up front with Perry and Getzlaf.
All right, let's work backwards. Let's start with that series for picks. Ducks, Preds, who you got?
Ducks, Preds. I have the Anaheim Ducks in 6 in this series.
I'm going 5.
You know,
I was going to say 5 too.
It's tough to tell. I give Nashville the benefit of the doubt. I think Pekka Rinne could steal a game.
Yeah.
I think that's their strong suit in net. That's why I want to say Anaheim in 6. I was going to go 5 with this one, but you never know what these star goalies like Pekka Rinne and Henrik Lundqvist are going to do in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's why I'll give them Anaheim in 6.
Kings, Sharks.
Kings in 5.
I agree.
For this
That's
one.
exactly.
I think that the Kings are primed. They've had a fantastic year. There really hasn't been a letdown there. And just with Lucic and how heavy they are as a team, I think that they beat the Sharks in 5 for sure.
Blues, Blackhawks.
Blues, Blackhawks. I have Chicago in 7 only because the St. Louis Blues are going to have a really tough time digesting the fact that they're going to lose in the first round again.
Yeah.
I think that they push this to 7 games, and Chicago will be on the road, remember that. But this is a team that's won 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years. Definitely think that Chicago overcomes and gets to the second round.
I'm going to say Chicago in 5. I think light work.
I think 6. I think St. Louis has been competitive year in and year out the last few years, and they've gotten bounced in the first round. A couple years ago, they won the first 2 games and lost the next 4. So I think they'll be competitive. I think I can see them falling behind 2-1, then winning a game they shouldn't win, and then just getting their doors blown off by a championship team here. So I'm going to go 6.
Right, and don't forget Tarasenko, too. Who knows when he can light the lamp, and if he has a great offensive series, I think that may help St. Louis out big time against the Chicago Blackhawks.
The Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild.
All right, for Dallas and Minnesota, I have Dallas in 6. I think that the Wild are a chippy squad. I think that Devin Dubnyk's a fantastic goaltender. I think that the Dallas firepower is going to help them big time, especially if Tyler Seguin comes back healthy.
I have Stars at 6 too. I agree.
I like the Stars just because I think even without Seguin, they could win this series. That's how talented they are.
Yeah.
And I think the Wild have had a good second half of the year and they got hot, but I just don't think they have enough to get over.
And with 87 points, that's not even respectable in the Eastern Conference. So this is a team that's played close games down the stretch. They've really had to fight to get into the playoffs. But I think that Dallas's firepower is way too much to handle, even for a great goaltender like Devin Dubnyk.
Great point there. Over back to the East, Florida and the Islanders.
I have the Panthers in 6. I think that the Halak injury will be a huge blow to the Islanders. I think just like the Rangers, they've been inconsistent as far as their scoring and giving up leads in games and getting down early in games. I think I really like the youth of the Florida Panthers, and I like the veteran leadership. Roberto Luongo, let's not forget who he was drafted by when he started his career.
Very true.
He wants to beat the New York Islanders in the first round. And Jaromir Jagr, I mean, what else can you say about the guy? He's ageless. He's fantastic still. And that's a veteran leader that's going to help these young guys along, especially if this ends up being a long series. But I do have the Florida Panthers in 6 games.
I agree there. 6 games.
The Panthers are a great story. I like the Islanders here in 7.
Okay. All right. All right, Rob.
They are a fantastic team offensively, and they do have a lot of talent. I just think that you don't know what you're going to get out of Hamonic because he's been injured. If he's even back for game 1, they say he's feeling okay. But I just think that not having the starting goalie, and especially the way they've been flip-flopping Greiss, I think that's going to be really tough for them to find consistency in net, and that's why I give the Florida Panthers the edge.
Tampa and Detroit, Rob.
I think Tampa, because I think that we're going to see an all-Florida series down there when it comes out of this one, with Tampa Bay playing the Panthers in the second round, which would be a lot of fun. I just think that although they have the injuries to Stroman and Stamkos and Hedman, who's been banged up, Ryan Callahan as well, I think that they're a better team than Detroit, and I don't think that Peter Mrazek's going to hold up against Ben Bishop. Let's not forget the experience that Tampa Bay had last year playing the New York Rangers, then going to the Stanley Cup Finals against the Blackhawks. I have Tampa Bay in 6 games in that series.
I like 6. I like 6 a lot.
I agree. I think they're the better team.
Caps Flyers, Rob.
Flyers in 7. We've talked about it all year. We've talked about the Washington Capitals and their inability to finish. I think that this is the perfect storm. I think that the Flyers have been fighting for the last 3 weeks to even get into the playoffs, while the Washington Capitals were winning the President's Trophy 3 weeks ago. I think that that's going to be a detriment to the Washington Capitals, and I do think that this will be my big upset when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs this year, and that is the Flyers in 7 games over the Washington Capitals.
Rob, our last matchup here. Last but not least, your New York Rangers take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Who you got here?
Well, Moose, I know this will make you mad. I know you're a Pens fan. I have to stick with my Stanley Cup final matchup that I had from day one with you guys. So I have the Rangers in 7 games against Pittsburgh. This is going to be tight. And honestly, this is a Ranger fan base that we go into this series, and we're really not sure what we're going to get out of this team. It's been a very inconsistent year offensively and defensively. And with the injuries to Ryan McDonough, it's going to be tough for them. But I do think with the past experience and all the things they have going for them as far as Henrik Lundqvist in net and Fleury, who may be a bit shaky, I think that the Rangers eke this one out in 7 games.
I got 6. Rangers in 6.
Okay.
Rob, before I make my prediction, do you feel like you mushed yourself from our text conversation last week?
As far as?
The matchup you guys ended up with.
You know what? I think that the hockey gods aren't going to like the fact that the Islanders threw that last game not to play Pittsburgh. I think that actually will work in the Rangers' favor.
The first person I thought, I texted AJ, I go, do you think Rob thinks he mushed himself? I was interested to see your response. I was like, this is going to go one way or the other.
Well, you know, quite honestly, I was hoping that Pittsburgh ended up playing the Capitals, so that would be the upset.
Yeah, that would have been ideal.
So honestly, seeing the Flyers play the Capitals is going to be fun as well. And honestly, the Rangers and Penguins, they're so close as far as talent's concerned. It's going to be a war, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And quite honestly, if I didn't pick the Rangers against the Kings in the Stanley Cup Finals, I may have had a different pick for this series. That's really how I do feel about the Rangers in seeing them play all year. So this is going to be a really tight series. That's why I have to keep the Rangers 7, just because.
I'll make my pick here now. I think with all the factors we talked about during this segment, from a health standpoint, I think both teams are banged up. We touched on that. But I think the way the Penguins have looked, I know what the inconsistency goes out the window now. The way the Penguins are playing, them having home ice in this series, I think is crucial. The Rangers need to come out and steal that. If they ever fall behind 2-0 in this series, I don't think they have enough at this point. I think they've been too inconsistent, and they aren't the same team they were last year or the year before. I think Pittsburgh's a little too much for them right now. I'm going to go Pittsburgh in 6.
No, absolutely, Moose, and I partially agree with that too.
No, it could go both ways. You're right.
Team. It's a Pittsburgh team that they're 14-2 down the stretch. Nobody was looking to play the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round.
Yep.
So I agree with you 100% on that. This is going to have to be a perfect series for the New York Rangers on the defensive end, because when you have Sidney Crosby playing as well as he is, along with that second line and Carl Hagelin flying around, it's going to be a very, very difficult task for these New York Rangers. Henrik Lundqvist is going to have to be perfect. He's going to have to steal a few games, just like last year. It's going to be 1-goal games. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I do agree with that philosophy, and I do agree with you, Moose, on that.
The NHL playoffs are here. That means our NHL insider, Rob Coliani, back for his weekly spot. Rob, we will talk to you next week. Enjoy Jose Fernandez and Noah Syndergaard tonight at City. We will talk to you next week.
Fantastic,
Thanks, buddy.
Gentlemen.
Have a good one, Rob.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks to Rob Coliani for calling in from Citi Field in anticipation of Jose Fernandez and Noah Syndergaard matching up tonight. Good for him getting
Great night
out there.
at the ballpark.
Yeah. It was. I think it's still. Is it cool out right now?
No,
but
it's cool.
it's
cool
nice.
down.
Yeah, it's nice. So it was ugly this morning, but it got nice as they went on. Anyway, we'll come back with an NBA playoff preview, what pissed you off, some NFL news and notes. Show is sponsored by Atomic Wings, atomicwings.com, the combo meal or the party platter, the awesome, authentic Atomic Wings. Also, the show brought to you by The Longest Day. Check out alz.org/go-to/Shane Hendry to donate to The Longest Day. Also, big announcement. We will be holding the first, hopefully annual, M&A Sports Radio Alzheimer's Association charity golf tournament. We'll have a scramble on June 25th in Cream Ridge Golf Course in New Jersey, a lovely course. Come on down. We're going to finalize the pricing soon. We're going to have a raffle, hopefully. We're going to have prizes. We're going to have stickers, T-shirts, all that and more. So look forward to that. If you have any possible sponsorships or you want any more information, email masportsradio@gmail.com.
Or if you just want to send me a check, the name's Mike O'Brien.
Talent fees.
Yeah. Feel free to send me.
We got to cover Moose's day rate for him to come out on a Saturday. All right, NBA when we come back. M&A Sports Radio.
Back after this.
All right, we're back. M&A Sports Radio. NBA, we'll talk about Golden State. We'll talk about the playoff preview. But first, Kobe Bryant playing his last game against the Utah Jazz. We have an M&A Sports sit-down coming your way, so check that out about Kobe Bryant and where we kind of rank him all time. Just quickly, Moose, what are your thoughts about Kobe this year and, as his career ends?
I think the last 3 years have been really tough for him. I've heard him talk about it, especially lately. Talking about how he was more concerned than anything just getting through the season. The year before he came back, a couple of years ago, he breaks his leg, and then he has the Achilles injury, and it felt like he was never going to be able to play a full season again.
Mm-hmm.
So to see him kind of just make it to have him standing at this point is almost – I'm very shocked he didn't have an injury, to be perfectly honest, excuse me. I just felt like his body was so broken down. There's a lot of tread on those tires.
No
and
question. 20 years.
He owes the game nothing, and part of me wishes – I understand his team stinks, but I wish they were a little bit better. I think they're 15-66
I wish they got into the playoffs one more time with him, just to see him.
Or just had a chance to make the – just be
just play some meaningful basketball
They
games.
haven't been respectable, and at least,
No.
The last couple of years have been very bad to watch. I'm sure for him it kind of makes his decision easier, too. It doesn't feel like he's walking away from a winner. He's walking away from a team that is
needs
really –
some help.
A complete rebuild is just an understatement there. They have a lot of trust issues. Do they need to fire another coach in Byron Scott? Does Phil want to come back? A lot of question marks. I don't know. This is probably the perfect time for him to exit stage left. Great career. He left it all on the floor.
That's to the actor's right, folks.
Yes. There you go, AJ. If that makes you feel better.
Golden State going for the record. They play Memphis. They beat San Antonio in San Antonio, ended the Spurs' undefeated home season bid in the last game. And I saw a lot from Golden State in that game where
Spurs missed a lot of shots.
That too, but I saw a lot from Golden State that they were like, we're going to go, not only, obviously, we're going to go toe-to-toe with you, but we can beat you in your building. So get ready to see us in the Western Conference Finals if you make it there.
Tim Duncan didn't play. But my whole thing is, I don't know if Tim Duncan can play in this type of game anymore.
I think he can
but in
for
Spurs,
sporadic minutes.
Yeah, for 20 minutes a night.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's going to be big in those minutes. They're going to need him, but that's why they have LaMarcus Aldridge. That's why they got David West on a premium price. Or not a premium price, a discount price.
Yeah, veterans minimum.
So
I think the Spurs didn't play really well the other night, though.
They didn't, but Golden State didn't play well either, but they still beat them in their building.
And that matters late in the year, and they wanted to lock up the 1 seed, and they got
that was a meaningful game for both teams. They both wanted that game, so don't let anything fool you on either side with that. So I was a good game.
It's a good measuring stick. Couple
no
games
question. No question. And they play Memphis at home now. Tough environment for Memphis to come into Oracle, going for the record.
Yeah, I would be if the Memphis Grizzlies ever won, I would be shocked.
That's a heck of a start to the playoff season if you win this game in Oracle.
The whole thing is, even if they get to 73 now, it's
gotta
like,
still go win
yeah,
it. Absolutely, you have to go still win
it's
it.
still ultimately a failure if they don't get the job done.
Absolutely, but
Let's make that clear.
Absolutely, but I don't know how to put it, but in a way, you only have goals for things you can attain at a time. So you can't win a championship in the regular season. You can try to go 73
Win your
and 9.
Game
Yeah,
9.
you can try to do that, and then obviously the page turns to win a series, win another series, win an Western Conference Finals, and win an NBA Finals. So I think they can definitely flip the switch. I think they got bored a little bit. We talked about it a couple weeks ago when they were losing. They lost 2 out of 3. We felt that they kind of got a little bored, but they flipped the switch recently. They're ready. They're primed to make another run. I'm very excited to see the Golden State Warriors in the playoff.
Oh, definitely. Because I think the first round or two is kind of going to be a cakewalk for them, especially the first round. I think they're going to run through things. But
Houston or the Jazz, yeah. 5 games, 4 games.
But once they get to that, they get to the second round, the conference finals, things are going to get interesting. That West has some teams that can definitely take. They're definitely going to give the Warriors all they want and some.
Let's go out west. You said it. I said it. Golden State 4 or 5 against the Jazz or the Rockets.
They'll sweep. They'll sweep either of them.
San Antonio against Dallas.
Dallas gave them trouble a couple years ago. They took them 7, but that Dallas team I think was a little better. They had Monte Ellis. Dirk's 2 years older. But I think for Dirk, this is kind of feather in the cap because they're at the end of their run there. It's kind of good for him just to get back in the postseason.
I want to say Spurs in 6. But I don't think Dallas wins 2. So Spurs in 5.
They just don't have enough, yeah.
Oklahoma City and Memphis.
Oklahoma City in 5.
Yeah. I figure
it's going to be tough for them to win a game.
Memphis is a tough out in the playoffs.
Yeah, but they're missing everybody.
Yeah. That's so true.
So they might not even get a game here. It depends.
Yeah.
They might get game.
It's going to be if Russell Westbrook or Durant are cold one night, they get a game.
Yeah, they can get game 3 at home in the Grindhouse. They'll have a chance there.
Absolutely. Last series, out west, Clippers, Blazers.
Portland's had a great year. I didn't see this coming with all they
no
lost.
No chance.
But
I had no idea.
Clippers will roll them.
How many games?
5, maybe 6.
Interesting. Out east, Cleveland and the Pistons.
5. Cleveland and 5.
5.
Just because Drummond, I think Drummond.
Because Drummond can get a game.
Tobias Harris, Reggie Jackson, they have some young players.
They've been good. It's going to be a good experience for them this series. Hopefully, if they can get to a game 6 ever. That'd be great. That'd be awesome for them. I don't think so either. But I'm just saying, if they can get to a game 6 at home, anything can really happen. And, Toronto and Indy. Toronto, I'd say 5 or 6. I don't know.
Yeah, I like Indy with Paul George. They're one of those teams that they're another big player away from being on that level where they could make a run of the conference finals. And they thought Roy Hibbert was that guy, and clearly was not fit to be that guy, which is why they shipped him out of town. Interesting to see how long Paul George hangs around if they continue to be a 6 or 7 seed in the East. Does he try and force his way out, or does he hang around for the duration of? I believe he's in the second year of a 5-year, $90 million extension. Yeah.
Hawks, Hornets. I like the Hornets.
I do too. The Hornets I've played outside of the Spurs and the Golden State Warriors. Have played the best basketball in the NBA post All-Star break.
They're really good. I enjoy watching them play when I see them.
They rolled the Celtics last night.
Speaking of the Celtics, they play the Miami Heat.
It's not a good matchup for the Celtics.
It isn't, but I'm very excited. I think this could be the best series of the round.
I think it's going to go 7.
I think this could go 7. I think this could be a war.
I don't know. Yeah.
I think it could be a really good series.
Is that matchup locked in already?
I think so.
It's pretty close.
I think
they play each other tomorrow night.
Wow.
Oh.
To finish the regular season, Celtics and Heat.
It might
tonight. I guess when people are listening.
Yeah,
it's Wednesday night.
I think that might just be for home court at that point. That'll be because they could have locked up home court for the first round last night if they would have won, but they lost to Charlotte.
I think that's going to be a really fun series. I'm going to take Celtics in 7.
I think Miami's too good. I think the Dwayne Wade playoff experience. I think Dragic has played better. Deng's played better. Justice Winslow has been literally a jackknife for that team. He's played a plethora of roles.
Absolutely.
I think they're a better team right now. Hassan Whiteside, they don't really have an answer for. Me and Matt have talked about how he's a bit of a head case, but we both like his game on the interior that could cause all types of problems for the Boston Celtics.
Absolutely. Over the NFL, really sad note, Will Smith, the defensive end for the New Orleans Saints,
tragic,
was shot and killed after an apparent hit-and-run accident or just traffic accident. An argument broke out between Will Smith and the driver of the other car.
The
guy just
pulled a gun.
Yeah, so very, very sad. Very good player. From every account, a really good guy.
Yeah.
So very sad to see him lose his life. You can't really say anything about that, right?
No, it's a huge loss. A guy who played on a national championship team, Ohio State, played on a Super Bowl winner for the 2009 New Orleans Saints.
Yep.
Had a very successful career. He made some Pro Bowls. He was a couple-time All-Pro, I think, even too. But it's crazy how life can change in a flash, and this is just a reminder that prayers go out to him.
Absolutely, and his family. Johnny and Josh Gordon are apparently living together after Johnny lied and said he was living with Von Miller. It's a whole TMZ thing. And then you hear what John said. The guy was like, you see me. I've been here at this place like the last 5 or 6 nights. You've seen me here. Like, you're talking to the photog from TMZ.
He said that about Josh Gordon because he knew Josh Gordon's drug test was coming out.
Yeah, so that's not good. Josh Gordon fails another drug test, supposedly.
Yep.
So that might be it.
For sure, right now, I think he's suspended indefinitely. Maybe 2 years from now we can talk about it. You already
Would you say definitely, indefinitely suspended?
For sure. You could go there. I think it's got to be a lifetime. It's essentially a lifetime. At this point, you'll have played 6 games at the end of the 2014 season, and he didn't play 1 game during the 2015 season. And then he's going to miss all of 2016 and potentially, maybe at least another 8 games of 2017. I don't want a guy who's played 6 games of football in the last 3 years.
Yeah. So John and Josh, the buddies, they're in a little bit of trouble.
Let's take it over to baseball here now. The Mets, a little bit of little struggle. People like to make something out of nothing. It's New York. It's what's today? It's mid-April. Whatever. The Mets are going to be fine. Do you make anything of this?
No, I don't. Because they have unbelievable pitching. The weather warms up, so will the pitching. I mean, their bats will come alive. Curtis Granderson is hitting like 42 right now. 042. Like, he's not going to hit 042. He's going to get up into the 200s at least. Conforto is a player. Cespedes will warm up. David Wright, if he can stay healthy. I don't know. Like, everyone's freaking out about the Mets. This is their fan base.
Yeah.
This is the Mets fan base. They're chronically worried. They're always worried about something. If we're going to do this for the whole season, like overreact to everything,
it's going to be a long year.
Number one, it's going to be a long year. Number two, they just went to a World Series. Is it going to be triple the intensity this time when you expect it? Like, this is ridiculous.
That's the price you pay for expectations.
Yeah, so, I mean, I wouldn't be worried about the Mets if I was a real Met fan. The ones that are worried have no idea what they're talking about.
Let's take it over to boxing here for a second now. Manny Pacquiao, and what he says is the last fight of his career, takes down Timothy Bradley in their third fight. That makes it 2-1 Bradley. He won the first time. It was one of arguably the most controversial decisions of all time in boxing. Pacquiao was robbed the first time, took care of business the last 2 times. Does he go out in the sunset? I don't know. Does he fight Mayweather? I really don't want to see that. That'd be a waste.
Not.
I think it's a waste of everyone's time.
Agree.
I do think one of these guys.
Floyd should be done.
I think one of these 2 guys will fight again, though.
Okay, I see it.
But I just don't think it should be each other.
I agree. 2 is good enough, I think. Yeah. Real quick, soccer. Man City beats PSG 1-0 to advance to the semifinals of Champions League. Real Madrid comes all the way back after trailing 2-0. In aggregate, they win 3-0 on a Ronaldo hat trick. The third goal was a free kick through the wall.
Was it majestic?
It was magisterial.
Oh, that's what it is.
That's what it was. Barcelona. Speaking of magisterial, Lionel Messi and Barcelona take on Atletico Madrid. They're leading 2-1. Expect them to advance. They go to Madrid to play the game, so it will be interesting, but expect them to advance. Benfica and Bayern 1-0 on aggregate for Munich. Expect them to win.
Messi's got that dark money.
Yeah, the Panama Papers. Messi's always in trouble with like governments and stuff about taxes. It's like the 3rd or 4th time it's come up, which is insane. Like, get your money right, dude. You're like the best player in the world. Like, why are you dealing with dirty money? That's stupid. Very stupid. That's an arguable pissed off moment for a lot of people, a lot of soccer fans. But Moose, what pissed you off?
For me this week, I usually don't care about the Knicks, but every week for a team that's 20 games below 500, why is there headlines? Phil Jackson wants to go back to LA. Of course he does. He didn't want to come. He didn't want to be the president of the Knicks. What happened was, you talked about it last week, he was supposed to be a consultant for the Pistons. He turned down $8 million, and then James Dolan just came in and kept bidding up the number, so it almost essentially forced him into taking this job. He's a guy that's calling into conference calls from LA, and then Melo wants to have a say in the new coach, and then he comes out and Phil Jackson says he likes Kurt Rambis because he can coach the triangle. The guy's 10 games below 500 as your head coach. Then I read today that they're interested in David Blatt potentially, but then later in the day I get home and I see that they've contacted Mark Jackson about the job. When does it end?
It doesn't.
When do you just become a good team? And
they don't.
And instead of trading away your future for guys like Eddie Curry and Carmelo Anthony. Eddie Curry was an abomination, but
I don't think that was fair to Melo just now.
I mean, you did.
No, but I don't think that was fair to compare Eddie Curry to Melo. I think Melo's been such a better Nick.
Oh, I mean, long term, it was much better results, but in hindsight, what did either guy get you for the franchise glory-wise? Other than statistic.
The really bad trade was the Bargnani trade to take away those ones. That was really, really
I mean,
bad.
it wasn't going to work either way.
No, but I'm just saying.
It was
to bring in young talent, like if you had those picks and Melo and young talent, like that would have been better than what happened with Bargnani.
Does it even mean they take the right guy, though?
That's the question, but I mean, we're all dealing with hypotheticals right now, so I was just being fair.
But hypothetically, if you're going to trade your first-round pick that you think would have been great potential for Andre Bargnani, that just shows you that the front office is inadequate and they probably don't know what they're doing.
Duh.
So that's my take on it. That's what pissed me off. I just think it's a joke, and it gets worse by the week, and I can't stand to read about it or talk about it anymore. AJ, what pissed you off?
I still can't watch the New York Yankees. That's what pissed me off.
AJNick3 at Comcast.com.
.net. That's half the problem.
My bad.
That's probably the
you
problem.
were in the .net phase. Was this during dial-up?
Comcast and yes. Figure it out. I want to watch the Yankees. This is a joke. It's so annoying. I can't take it anymore. That's what pissed me off. I can't watch my favorite baseball team. I'm watching the Mets every night. Not that that's a shot at the Mets, but I kind of want to watch my team. Sign it off. Thanks to the sponsor, Atomic Wings, Alzheimer's Association, the alz.org/go-to/Shane Hendry to donate for the longest day. Producers on the other side of the glass, Joe for Micah, Matt Vaccaro, the fans, the listeners, the contributors to the show. Thank you guys. Find the show, iTunes and SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, M&A Sports Radio, MASportsRadio.com. Audio mailbag number to call 646-397-6368. If you have any chance or any opportunity of like sponsoring the golf tournament, please email masportsradio@gmail.com. Or if you have if you want to come, if I didn't invite you on the Facebook by accident, I apologize. But if you want to come, it's going to be a great time. Cream Ridge Golf Course, New Jersey, June 25th. When more information is available, we will get it to you about that. Moose, I thank you. Say what you got to say.
See you next week.